Despite their mother's worries and the villagers' whispers, the princesses continued to dance with the world, their hearts as wild and free as the beautiful village they called home. In this village, there's usually a festival that happens every year. This wasn't just any festival. It was for the princess's brothers, to find brides. On the day of this festival, the village square was alive with colors, music, and the sweet smell of festival foods. Beautiful girls from the village and even from places far away came. They wore their prettiest dresses and danced beautifully, hoping one of the princes would pick them to be a bride. But in the palace, the three princesses watched from a window, their thoughts far away from the glitter and the gold. When men came asking for their hand, the princesses would find reasons to say no. He's too proud, one would say. He thinks his gold can buy love, another would sigh. Even when a very, very rich man from another village came with lots of gifts, the princesses just shook their heads. They splashed water on him when he said he wanted to marry all three to make his 7 wives. That made everyone in the village talk. How foolish, they said. Turning away all these rich and powerful men, their parents King Chima and Queen Uli were puzzled and a bit sad. Why won't you marry? They'd ask. Your brothers are ready and you are the elder. But the princesses would only smile and say, when we find true love, we will know. The festival for their brothers was beautiful. Maidens danced and laughed, hoping to catch the prince's eyes. And though the princesses admired the courage of these girls, their hearts longed for something different. They didn't want a love that was found in a day. They wanted a love that understood them, that saw beyond their crowns. As the festival ended and the princes found their brides, the village talked even more. What will become of the 3 foolish princesses? They whispered. But the princesses weren't worried. They believed in their hearts that true love wasn't something you could find in a festival. It was something that found you, in its own time and its own way. As the seasons changed and the moon danced its way through the sky, the princesses grew into beautiful young women. They watched the leaves turn from green to gold, thinking about love, about what it meant to them. They saw their brothers happy with their brides, and something stirred in their hearts. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to open their hearts to love. But it had to be true love, the kind that saw them for who they really were. One evening, under a sky filled with stars, the princesses went to their father, King Chima. They had a request, one that made the king's eyebrows rise in surprise. Father, they said, their voices echoing with hope. We want a festival of our own, a festival where men can show us their talents and skills. We want to find love, but it must be true love. King Chima looked into their eyes, seeing the earnestness shining back at him. He knew his daughters were different, their spirits free and wild. First he thought this was not a part of the tradition of the land, but nevertheless he thought maybe this was their way of finding love. So, with a nod and a heart full of hope, he agreed. Let there be a festival, he announced, and the village stirred with excitement once more. Word spread like wildfire. From the corners of the village to lands far away, suitors prepared to win the hearts of the 3 princesses. They practiced their skills, polished their talents, and dreamt of love. The village buzzed with anticipation. Tailors sewed fine clothes, chefs prepared feasts, and musicians tuned their instruments. This was going to be a festival like no other. The princesses watched as the village transformed. They saw the eagerness in the eyes of the suitors, the joy in the hearts of the villagers. They didn't know what the festival would bring, but they felt a flutter of excitement in their own hearts. Maybe, just maybe, among the jesters, the poets, and the warriors. They would find the ones who could see beyond the crowd.
This is cute.
The ones who could see them. As the day of the festival drew near, the air filled with a sense of wonder. The princesses looked at each other, their smiles saying what words could not. They were ready to step into the unknown, ready to find love, but only if it was true. The village waited. The suitors readied themselves, and the stars watched from above. It was the beginning of something magical, something that could change their lives forever. The day of the grand festival arrived, shining bright with the sun's smile. The village square was alive, buzzing like a beehive with excitement. Men from the village and lands far away came, their hearts set on winning the princesses. They came dressed in their finest, muscles gleaming, smiles wide, and gifts in hand. Some brought gold, others boasted of their lands, and many showed off their strength and beauty, each hoping to catch the eye of a princess. The princesses watched quietly, their eyes sparkling with mischief. They saw the efforts of the suitors, each trying to outdo the other. But deep in their hearts, they knew that gold and strength were not what they sought. They wanted someone who could see beyond the surface, who could understand their hearts. So, as the sun began to dip, casting golden light across the village, the princesses stood before the crowd. "We have a challenge," they announced, their voices clear and strong. "To win our hearts, you must do more than show your wealth or strength. You must guess our real names." A hush fell over the crowd. Names? But who knew the princesses' names? They were known far and wide as the three foolish princesses. Their real names a mystery lost to all. The suitors were stunned. Guess their names. It was a task that seemed impossible. They had prepared to show their might and wealth, not to guess names. Murmurs spread through the crowd, a mix of confusion and curiosity. How could they find the names of the princesses? But the princesses stood firm, their challenge hanging in the air like a riddle. It was a test not of wealth or strength, but of wisdom and patience. They wanted to see who would look beyond the titles, who would take the time to truly know them. The village buzzed with questions. How will they find the names? Is it a quest? A puzzle? The suitors looked at each other, their confidence shaken. The princesses watched, a smile playing on their lips. They had turned the tables, challenging the suitors to look beyond the surface, to seek a deeper connection. As the festival ended, the suitors left with their minds buzzing. They had come to show off their best, only to be met with a challenge they had not expected. The princesses had shown their cleverness, making it clear that they sought a love that was true, a love that saw beyond the crowns and the titles. The village whispered of the princesses' test, wondering who, if anyone, could rise to the challenge. It was a story that would be told for days to come, a tale of three princesses who sought love in their own unique way. The challenge had been set, and now it was up to the suitors to find the answers. The quest for the princesses' names had begun. In the village where everyone was busy guessing and whispering about the princesses' challenge, there lived a man named Okon. Okon was known to all, but not for reasons one might expect. He was the village drunkard, often seen stumbling and mumbling, his days spent in a haze of laughter and wine. Most considered him foolish, a man of no consequence. But beneath the surface, there was more to Okon than met the eye. When Okon heard about the princess's challenge, something stirred within him. He saw what others didn't, a chance, a glimmer of hope. Why not me, he thought. Why can't I win the hearts of the princesses? So, with a determination that surprised even himself, Okon set out on a quest to discover the true names of the three princesses. Day after day, Okon followed the princesses, not too close, just a shadow among the trees. He watched them laugh and play, their spirits as free as the birds above. But no matter how closely he listened, their names remained a mystery. They called each other by nicknames. Their bond a secret language of smiles and glances. Then one day fate took a hand. As the princesses wandered near the forest's edge, the youngest, full of joy and mischief, didn't see the hidden pit before her. With a gasp and a tumble, she fell in, her laughter turning to cries of fright. Help!
Hey, what do you do here?
Get a gig that's built to last.
This is serious!
Is something distracting you?
Let's break a curse.
Well, now I kind of miss the lava monster. We just bought a one-way ticket to Dentsville.
What?
We're gonna die, and
She cried, her voice echoing through the trees. Please, someone! Okon, hidden behind a bush, watched in shock. This was his chance, not to win a challenge, but to do something good, something right. But before he could move, he heard the eldest princess shout, Amma to the rescue! And then the middle one. Lila's coming too. Okon's eyes widened. Names. The names of the princesses spilled like precious gems. He watched as Amma and Lila worked together, finding a long stick to help their sister. Hold on, Tina, they called, their voices filled with love and concern. With a heave and a hold, the sisters pulled Tina from the pit, their arms wrapping around her in a tight hug. Okon, hidden still, felt a warmth in his heart. He had found their names, but he had also seen the love they shared. A love that went beyond any challenge. Filled with a new resolve, Okon stepped out from his hiding place, his heart beating like a drum. He knew what he had to do. With a shout that carried across the village, he declared, I know their names, Amma, Lila, Tina. The village turned in astonishment. Okon, the one they called a fool, had done what none could. He had discovered the secret that lay at the heart of the challenge. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Okon, but for the princesses too. They had found someone who saw beyond the games, someone who had taken the time to truly know them. As the news spread, the village buzzed with excitement. Okon, once the village drunkard, was now the talk of the town. His strategy, born of patience and observation, had revealed the true names of the princesses. It was a story that would be told for generations, a tale of unexpected heroism and the power of looking beyond appearances. As the village gathered, eyes wide and whispers loud, Okon stood before King Chima, the princesses by his side. The air was thick with anticipation. Okon, once thought a mere village drunkard, held the attention of all. I know the names of your daughters, he declared proudly. Amma, Lila, Tina. But Okon had one more surprise, a secret that would change everything. I am not who you think I am, he began, his voice steady and strong. I am Prince Okon, from a neighboring village. I came here not as a fool, but in disguise, to learn the true hearts of your daughters. The village gasped, eyes turning from Okon to the princesses, then back again. The man they had mocked was a prince, wise and cunning, who had seen past the game to the truth beneath. The princesses smiled at Okon, their eyes shining with respect and something deeper, a connection forged in understanding and kindness. They had seen many suitors, men of wealth and strength, but none had sought to know them as Okon had. He had shown wisdom, seeing beyond titles and appearances to the heart of who they were. King Chima, moved by Okon's revelation and his daughter's happiness, agreed to their marriages. You have proven yourself wise and true, he said to Okon, worthy of my daughters. The weddings were like no other, celebrations that filled the village with music, laughter, and joy. Amma, Lila, and Tina, the three princesses once thought foolish, stood proudly beside Prince Okon, their hearts united in love and respect. As the princesses set off with Prince Okon to begin their new lives, the village was left in a state of wonder. They had judged the princesses and Okon, labeling them foolish without truly seeing their hearts. But love, the princesses and Okon showed, was not about titles or appearances, but about understanding, respect, and seeing the true worth of a person. The story of the three princesses and Prince Okon became a legend, a tale of wisdom, equality, and the power of love. It was a reminder to all that true nobility comes not from birth or wealth, but from the wisdom of the heart and the courage to see.
Come from Mufasa's origin story?
Stay for stars.
Or scars. Oh.
I'm Tucker. What's your name?
Mufasa.
On December 20th,
My loves, to be a true king, you must earn it.
follow the journey. It is your time of two brothers. And one epic adventure. Destiny. Oh wait, brothers. Get up! Mufasa, the Lion King.
One small suggestion, more meerkats.
Big PJ, tickets on sale now.
Hey, it's me, your skin. I want to feel extra clean, but will it leave me tight or stripped? I'm craving a balanced cleanse with CeraVe. CeraVe Foaming Cleanser, developed with dermatologists, cleanses and removes excess oil. With niacinamide known to keep me calm and 3 essential ceramides, CeraVe prevents disruption of my natural barrier for a cleanse that gives, not just takes. So we're refreshingly clean. CeraVe Clean. CeraVe Foaming Cleanser from the #1 dermatologist recommended skincare brand.
No one ever questioned Adama's beauty until the night screams echoed from her mansion. That night, the entire suburb of Victoria Gardens was shaken. The sound that came from Adama's grand compound was unlike anything anyone had heard before. It wasn't just a cry, it was a wail so haunting that people froze in their homes, their hearts pounding with fear. It seemed to come from.
Hey guys, so I'm just going to charge this. I need to charge it. I know I haven't talked to you, but you know what I'm doing, right?
Distant chatter fell silent. The scream echoed across the streets, bounced off the tall walls of Adama's mansion, and rippled through the neighborhood, leaving an eerie stillness in its wake. Adama was known far and wide for her beauty, her flawless skin, the way her eyes seemed to shine like stars in the night, and her smile that made heads turn wherever she
I
went.
look pretty.
She had built an empire in the bustling city.
I'm gonna be using all these. I'm so excited to use these products. I can't wait to show you guys. I'm gonna put it on my TikTok so you guys can go see it, okay?
Just to sit at her feet and learn her secrets, hoping to capture even a fraction of her beauty. Her mansion stood tall in the heart of the city, with lush gardens, sparkling fountains, and high gates that kept the world at a respectful distance. Adama lived in luxury. Inside, her place was decorated with expensive art, soft velvet couches, and marble floors that gleamed in the sunlight. She had everything she could ever want, and it all seemed perfect. Though Adama lived in the city now, she had not always been surrounded by wealth and admiration. She had grown up in a small village called Umozulu, where life was simple and people knew their roots. It was there that Adama first learned about true beauty. Her grandmother, Mama Nkechi, had been a healer, a woman who knew the power of the earth. Mama Nkechi had passed down the knowledge of herbs and ancient secrets, whispering them to Adama as a child. Beauty is not just what you see, Mama Nkechi would say. It is power, power over others, but you must be willing to pay the price. Adama remembered those words well. As she grew older, she became consumed with fear of losing her beauty. She could not bear the thought of wrinkles marking her smooth skin or her hair thinning like that of the older women in the village. She watched how the other women aged, how their once vibrant laughter became tired sighs, and their proud features faded into the shadows of their past. She swore that this fate would never be hers. So, while the other young women of Umozulu danced in the moonlight or spent time at the river, Adamma stayed inside, practicing the forbidden rituals her grandmother had once hinted at. When she moved to the city, Adamma quickly realized that beauty was a currency. In the crowded streets and glittering malls, beauty was power, and power could get you anything you wanted. But she knew that one day her beauty will fade. She will grow and no longer use her beauty to her advantage. She started her makeup line, using her grandmother's secret herbs as the foundation for her products. Word spread fast. The makeup didn't just enhance a woman's looks, it transformed them. Skin glowed, wrinkles disappeared, and eyes sparkled with a new light. Adamma's fame grew with each passing day. Her face appeared on billboards, in magazines, and on the screens of every TV in the city. People adored her, especially men. They cherished her beauty, hanging on to her every word. Some would send her expensive gifts, while others would do anything just to be close to her. Her influence was unmatched. Many powerful men wanted Adamma's attention, hoping to be with her because they believed she could bring them luck, success, or even a bit of her magic. With her beauty came great power, and Adamma knew how to use that power to her own advantage. Other young women looked up to her. They wanted to be her. They would gather outside her makeup studio, hoping for a glimpse of her radiant face or a kind word. Many signed up for her makeup lessons, willing to pay large sums of money just to learn the secrets behind her flawless skin and the makeup that made her so alluring. Adamma's wealth grew even more, as did her reputation. Her life seemed perfect on the outside, a fairy tale of success and beauty. Every evening, Adamma would lock herself in one of her grand rooms. The walls, painted a deep red, were covered in mirrors, and the air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and oils. It was here, under the soft glow of golden lamps, that Adamma performed her nightly rituals. Inside her private chambers, far away from the eyes of her admirers, she mixed ingredients that were never meant to be touched by human hands. One by one, women came to learn from Adamma, and beautiful ones went missing. Some.
Can we add a jelly donut?
Yeah. Can we add a old fashioned?
Can we have vanilla cream?
Can we have chocolate
Can we
sprinkles?
have vanilla sprinkles?
Can we have strawberry
Can we
sprinkles?
have fruit powder?
Can we have
blueberry
blueberry
glaze?
glaze?
And Boston cream. Is that 12?
Okay, pal. You're gonna love this.
Their memories were clouded, their spirits weakened, but no one could explain why. They just knew that after visiting Adamma, they felt different, like a part of them had been taken away. But there was one woman who felt something even stronger when she stepped into Adamma's studio. Her name was Okamaka. Okamaka was a makeup artist who just
Look
moved
at
to
the gunk.
Gardens, but was different from the other women. She had a strong faith in God and always prayed before making any big decisions. She believed that God would show her the way and protect her from harm. Okamaka had heard about Adamma like everyone else in the city. She had heard about her beauty and her success. But Okamaka didn't just rush in. Before she did anything, she prayed. God, she said, if this is where you want me to go, lead me, and if it's not, protect me. Okamaka trusted God completely. when she finally decided to take lessons for a month at Adama's studio. Ukamaka walked in with hope in her heart, but as soon as she stepped through the door, she felt uneasy. The room was beautiful, with big mirrors and shiny makeup tables, but something didn't feel right. Ukamaka couldn't explain it, but her spirit told her something was wrong. It was as if a cold wind had brushed past her, making her heart race. She felt out of place. The women waiting in the studio looked quiet and blank, as if they weren't really there. Ukamaka watched them closely, praying silently in her heart. Lord, show me what this feeling is, she whispered. Help me understand. When Adama finally appeared, she looked just as beautiful as always. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled, and her smile was as sweet as honey. But Ukamaka noticed something strange in Adama's eyes, something that made her feel cold inside. Adama greeted her warmly. You must be Ukamaka, she said with her soft, perfect voice. I've heard about you. You want to grow your makeup business, yes? Ukamaka smiled politely, but deep inside, she felt the same cold feeling in her heart. She nodded, but the words didn't come easily. Come, let me show you how it's done, Adama said, guiding Ukamaka to a chair. As she began to talk about her makeup techniques, something inside Ukamaka was stirring. Her mind felt light, her thoughts cloudy, and she didn't like the feeling at all. She began to pray again, asking for strength. As Adama continued to speak, Ukamaka felt something dark in the air. It was as if there was an invisible force in the room, something that wanted to pull her in. But Ukamaka's faith was strong. She could feel God's protection around her, even in that cold place. Adama suddenly stopped speaking and looked at Ukamaka closely. Her smile faded for a moment, and her eyes seemed to search Ukamaka's soul. You are different, Adama said softly, almost in a whisper. Ukamaka's heart skipped a bit. What do you mean? She asked, though she already knew that Adama could sense her strength. Adama smiled again, but this time it wasn't the warm smile from before. It was something else. I've seen many women come and go, but you are not like the others. Ukamaka felt a chill run down her spine. She prayed even harder, her heart steady with faith. Adama explained most of her products and displayed a plan on how the lessons would go from the following day. Ukamaka said nothing more. She stood up, thanked Adama politely, and walked out of the studio. Her heart was pounding, but her faith was stronger. She knew something was deeply wrong with Adama, but she didn't fully understand it yet. As she left the studio and stepped into the bright city streets, Ukamaka felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew she had just been in the presence of something evil, but God had protected her. Ukamaka kept attending her lessons at Adama's studio, but something had changed. Adama no longer seemed happy to have Ukamaka around. In fact, she looked uncomfortable whenever Ukamaka walked through the door. Most of the time, Adama sent one of her assistants to help Ukamaka, avoiding her as much as possible. At first, Ukamaka tried to be patient, but after a few days, she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She had paid a lot of money to be taught by Adama herself, not by some assistant. One afternoon, when Adama once again tried to send her assistant, Ukamaka calmly but firmly spoke up. I didn't come here to be taught by someone else, she said. I came to learn from you, Adama. Adama's eyes flashed with irritation, but she kept her sweet smile. Of course, she said, dragging her feet as she walked over to Ukamaka. It was clear that she didn't want to be near her, but she couldn't refuse outright. Finally, Adama stood next to Ukamaka by the mirror. Ukamaka watched as she adjusted her hair and then glanced at Ukamaka without much interest. We have no models today, Adama said, her her voice soft but cold. So, there's nothing we can practice on. You'll have to come back tomorrow. Ukamaka sat on the chair, watching as Adama pretended to be busy, signing papers and smiling at other clients, clearly happy to have gotten rid of her for the day. Just as Ukamaka sat glued to her phone, the door swung open, and in walked Ngozi, Ukamaka's friend. She had a bright smile on her face as she waved at Ukamaka as she stepped inside the studio. I called my friend Ngozi, Ukamaka said, her voice calm but firm. We can practice on her. Adama's smile faltered for a split second, and disappointment flashed across her face. She hadn't expected Ukamaka to find a solution so quickly. She had wanted to push her out for the day, but now, with Ngozi standing in front of her, she had no choice but to continue the lesson. Fine, Adama said, her voice tight as she forced a smile. Let's begin. Ngozi sat down in the chair, excited to be part of the lesson. Adama started gathering her makeup tools, but before she could apply anything to Ngozi's face,
do you guys see this?
quietly reached for each item. She closed her eyes and prayed over every brush, every powder, every cream. Adama's eyes narrowed as she watched Ukamaka silently pray, but she didn't say a word. She simply waited, her smile becoming more strained with each passing moment. There was a tension in the air that no one else seemed to notice, but Ukamaka could feel it. Finally, the makeup was done. When Ngozi looked in the mirror, she gasped in amazement. Her face looked flawless, almost like someone else. The makeup had transformed her. She smiled brightly and touched her cheeks. I love it, Ngozi exclaimed. I won't take this off until it fades by itself. Ukamaka smiled, happy that her friend liked the results. As the lesson came to an end, Ukamaka and Ngozi gathered their things to leave. Adama, still wearing her tight smile, called out to Ukamaka as she walked toward the door. Next time, Adama said, her voice sweet but with a strange urge, you'll be applying everything you've learned. I expect you to show me what you can do. The following morning, Ukamaka's phone rang. It was her friend. As she spoke on the phone, her voice trembled with fear. Ukamaka, Ngozi whispered.
On December 20th, only one movie will make you roar. Scream. Get up! And sing. Mufasa, the Lion King. Tickets available now. Rated PG. Go on, Aya. Someone who lives out of a sheep carry on. Oh, something right. She can carry good. Don't overthink it. The bad trouble.
Something strange happened last night. Ukamaka's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? She asked, already fearing the worst. I can't remember much, Ngozi continued, her voice shaking. It's like a fog is covering my mind. I remember walking into my bedroom, but after that, it's all blurry. My head feels strange and I've had nightmares. Nightmares? Ukamaka asked, her voice firm but gentle. Tell me about them. Ngozi hesitated, her breath heavy through the phone. I see shadows, Ukamaka. Dark figures chasing me through a thick forest. And there's this feeling like something is trying to pull me into the darkness. Ukamaka clenched her jaw. She had heard enough. Ngozi, listen to me. You need to pray. Whatever is happening to you, we need to ask God for help. I think there's something evil in Adama's makeup. Ngozi's voice was barely a whisper. But how? How can makeup do this to me? I don't know yet, Ukamaka said, her voice low but firm. But I'm going to find out. After speaking with Ngozi on the phone, Ukamaka prayed quietly, asking for guidance as she prepared to attend her makeup class with Adama. When Ukamaka arrived, the studio was buzzing with clients and her model was already seated, ready for her lesson. But today, something was different. Adama stood by her side, holding every makeup product herself. She made sure that Ukamaka didn't get to touch any of the items directly. Adama would hold each powder, each foundation, and each tube of makeup. Ukamaka would only collect with a brush when it was time to apply them. Ukamaka found this strange but tried not to let it bother her. She focused on her work, carefully applying the makeup to the model's face. But as she continued, the makeup didn't seem to blend properly. The colors looked wrong and nothing was sitting on the skin the way it should. She could feel the eyes of the other new students in the studio watching her, whispering quietly among themselves. When Ukamaka was finally done and stepped back to see her work, she froze. The makeup was horrible. Her model looked worse than when she had started. The foundation was patchy, the colors clashed, and the whole face looked like something out of a nightmare. Ukamaka's heart sank. She had done makeup for years before she moved to this part of the city. She had worked on brides, parties, and special events, and people had always loved her work. It wasn't like her to make such a terrible mistake. She couldn't understand what had gone wrong. Adama stood next to her, still holding the makeup in her hands, her smile tight and controlled. "Don't worry, Ukamaka," she said softly, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "There's always room to learn. I think you just forgot to use the concealer." Ukamaka stared at her confused. "But I did use the concealer," she said, her voice low. "I used everything you handed to me." The model, who had been sitting patiently, now rushed to the bathroom, clearly upset. Ukamaka could hear the sound of water running as the woman tried to scrub the makeup off her face. Ukamaka's mind raced. She had followed every step, used every product that Adama had given her, yet the results were worse than anything she had ever done before. She turned to Adama, her voice filled with frustration. "I don't understand what went wrong. I know I can do better than this. Let me try the makeup on myself to prove it." Adama's smile tightened even further, and she shook her head. "Oh, Ukamaka, I'm afraid your time is up for today. I have other students to attend to, and I can't stay any longer." "But I don't need assistance," Ukamaka protested. "I can sit by myself and practice on my own face. Just give me a few minutes. I'll clean up after I'm done." Ukamaka sighed, shaking her head again. "It's not about that, Ukamaka. The studio is very busy today, and I need to make sure everything runs smoothly. You can come back tomorrow, and we'll continue then." Ukamaka felt a wave of frustration wash over her, but there was nothing more she could say. She could feel that Adama was pushing her away on purpose. Something wasn't right, but she didn't have the answers yet. She nodded slowly and packed up her things, her mind filled with questions as she walked out of the studio. As she left, she couldn't stop thinking about how wrong everything felt. How could her makeup have gone so horribly when she used everything exactly as Adama had instructed? Ukamaka had a nagging feeling that something much bigger was happening, but she didn't know what it was. All she knew was that she couldn't give up. She had to find out the truth. This continued every day, Adama standing by her side, making sure she never touches the actual makeup, only the brushes. Every product, every item, Adama held herself. When Ukamaka finished the makeup on her model, her heart sank. It was terrible, just as bad as the day before. The colors were wrong, the foundation was patchy, and the model's face looked like it had been painted by someone who never held a brush before. Adama smiled at her, that same tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Don't worry, Ukamaka," she said sweetly. "You'll get better. There's always room to learn." As she moved on to help other clients, Ukamaka decided to stay and watch the other students. One by one, the other students also struggled. Their models looked terrible, just like Ukamaka's. No one could get it right. This went on for days. Each time Ukamaka came in, it was the same story. She would try her best, but the makeup would always turn out wrong, no matter how carefully she followed Adama's instructions. Adama, on the other hand, would always create perfection. In Ukamaka's final week, something unexpected happened. As Ukamaka was practicing on a new model's face, two women burst into the studio, their faces red with anger. They stormed up to Adama, throwing makeup products onto the table. "Look at this," one of the women shouted, pointing to her client, whose face looked horrible, smeared and uneven. "None of this works. Look at my client. Her face is ruined." Adama quickly put down the foundation she was holding for Ukamaka and rushed over to the angry women. Her smile never faltered as she calmly looked at the upset clients. "Please, don't worry," she said smoothly. "Take this and wipe it off." She handed the makeup pen to the woman, who quickly removed the disastrous makeup from her client's face. As Adama worked, the client's anger faded. With each stroke of Adama's brush, the client's face began to glow, transforming from something terrible into a vision of perfection. The once furious client gasped with each passing second. "Wow," she whispered, her eyes wide in disbelief. Adama smiled with satisfaction as she finished. "This is how makeup is done," she said, stepping back to reveal the flawless face she had just created. The once angry client looked stunned, her voice now soft. I'm sorry, Adama. Maybe makeup just isn't for me. I can't seem to get it right." Adama nodded, still smiling. "Not everyone is meant for it. You will find something else you are good at." But before Adama could bask in her victory, Ukamaka walked up to her, her face covered in the makeup she had just applied on herself. "Adama," Ukamaka said, her voice firm, "look at my face." Adama turned and froze. Ukamaka's makeup was even worse than it had been on the models. Her face looked like a clown, with bright colors smeared everywhere. The foundation cracked and uneven, but Ukamaka didn't care. "Take that off right now," Adama shouted, her voice suddenly sharp and full of panic. Her usual calm and sweet tone was gone. She looked at Ukamaka with wide, angry eyes. "You can't walk around like that. Take it off." "No," Ukamaka said, shaking her head. "Ukamaka, take it off." Adama was almost yelling now, her voice shaking as she tried to stay composed. But something was slipping. The calm, beautiful Adama everyone knew was starting to crack. She looked desperate, her eyes darting around the room. Ukamaka refused. Without another word, she turned and ran out of the studio, her terrible makeup still on her face. Adama chased after her, her voice rising in a scream. "Come back here, Ukamaka." Everyone in the studio was shocked. They had never seen Adama lose control like this. She was always calm, always perfect. But now, she was acting like a mad woman, all because Ukamaka had refused to remove her makeup. The students and clients exchanged confused glances as they watched the two women run through the complex. Adama's usual grace and elegance were gone, replaced with frantic energy. She looked wild, shouting for Ukamaka to stop, but Ukamaka kept running. Outside, in the busy street, people stared at Ukamaka as she ran past them. With her smeared makeup and wild eyes, she looked strange, like a clown running through the city. But Ukamaka didn't care. She wasn't embarrassed by the stares or the whispers. Something inside her told her that this makeup, this terrible smeared face, held the key to the truth. Adama lost Ukamaka in the crowd, her breath coming in ragged gasp as she stopped in the middle of the street, her perfect hair falling out of place. She looked around desperate, but Ukamaka was gone. Meanwhile, Ukamaka walked through the streets, ignoring the curious looks of passers-by. She felt strange, but she wasn't scared. She knew she had to get home. She needed to figure out what was going on, and she wasn't going to stop until she did.
Vitamin water is so New York. It accidentally stays on till 6 a.m. Good thing work doesn't start until 9.
When Ukamaka finally reached her house, she was exhausted. She went straight to her room, still wearing the horrible makeup on her face. She didn't bother to take it off. Instead, she sat on her bed, her mind racing with questions. Suddenly, she found herself standing in the middle of a thick, dark forest. The air was cold, and the trees loomed tall and shadowy around her. The ground beneath her feet was soft, but as she looked down, her heart raced. She was walking on skeletons. Bones crunched under her shoes with each step she took, but she couldn't stop walking. The forest path ahead of her seemed strangely clear, like it was used every day, but it was eerie and silent, except for her own breath and the crackle of bones beneath her. She walked on, her legs feeling heavy like she was dragging her feet through thick mud. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared in front of her. At first, the figure stood still, smiling as though it had just found new prey. The smile was twisted, unnatural, and filled with wicked joy. But as Ukamaka continued walking, the figure's expression changed. Its smile faded into a snarl, and its eyes burned with anger. The figure let out a terrifying scream, its voice echoing through the dark forest. "Who are you?" it demanded, trying to move closer, its long, sharp nails reaching out to touch Ukamaka. But something strange happened. The figure couldn't reach her. It scratched and clawed at the air, trying to rip off Ukamaka's skin. But every time it came close, it seemed to be stopped by
my ABZ.
"Who are you?" The figure screamed again.
May your life. What's up?
It wailed and thrashed in the air, but Ukamaka kept walking, her heart racing with fear. She whispered a prayer under her breath, knowing that God was with her, even in this dark place. The figure's cries grew louder and angrier as Ukamaka walked away, leaving it wailing behind her. She continued on the path, though her feet felt like they were getting heavier with each step. It was as if something was trying to pull her back, making it harder for her to move. But she didn't stop. She kept going, even as her legs dragged along the forest floor. As Ukamaka walked further into the forest, she noticed pieces of meat hanging from the branches of the trees. They were large and bloody, like they had been left there for some terrible purpose. The sight made Ukamaka's stomach turn, but she knew she had to keep going. The wails behind her grew louder, and it felt like a crowd of voices was screaming, echoing through the dark trees. Ukamaka closed her eyes and prayed over each branch she passed, whispering softly, "In Jesus' name." As she prayed, something incredible began to happen. The meat started to burn. Flames flickered at first, small and weak, but then it grew stronger, spreading across the branches. The fire roared to life, burning the trees and everything hanging from them. The forest around Ukamaka was now ablaze, the flames licking at the darkness, lighting up the once shadowy woods. Ukamaka tried to run from the fire, but the same dark figure that had screamed at her was now caught in the flames, screaming and screeching, its body twisted and burned as it reached out one last time, grabbing Ukamaka by the legs, pulling her back into the fire. She felt trapped, the heat rising around her, the figure's nails digging into her skin as it dragged her closer to the flames. "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus," Ukamaka screamed, kicking the figure into the fire, her voice breaking with fear and desperation. She felt the fire closing in, the figure's grip tightening around her legs as it let out a terrifying screeching howl. Suddenly, Ukamaka jolted awake, her heart racing, the sound of the scream still echoing in her ears. Ukamaka's body was drenched in sweat, her heart pounding against her chest. She sat up quickly, gasping for breath, her hand clutching her chest. God, it was a dream, she whispered to herself, her voice shaky. She looked around the run, the familiar surroundings slowly calming her down, but the memory of the dark forest and the screaming figure stayed with her. That same night, a scream pierced the quiet of Victoria Gardens. It was the kind of scream that stays with you, that crawls into your mind and refuses to leave. The kind of scream that makes you wonder what kind of nightmare could have caused such a sound. Everyone knew it had come from Adama's mansion, the grand house that sat like a shadow in the middle of the suburb. But no one was brave enough to talk about it openly. The fear was there, thick and unspoken, as if everyone knew that something terrible had happened, but didn't want to believe it. But what Ukamaka didn't know was that the scream, the one that had echoed through the neighborhood, wasn't just a sound. It was connected to her dream. The figure she had seen in the fire, that ugly, terrifying figure, was real. It was burning, screaming as it was consumed by flames. The next day, Ukamaka made her way to Adama's studio again, but when she arrived, Adama was late. The students stood around, waiting for her, their faces full of curiosity and impatience. When Adama finally appeared,
Welcome to Nissan. Are you interested in test drive?
Absolutely. There's the all-new Kicks, the new Frontier, and the Nissan Rogue, a Best Buy 10 years in a row. Hurry in to the Nissan year-end sales event.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Oopsies. You go.
No, you go.
Oh,
everyone turned to look at her. She was dressed strangely today, her face covered with a hijab and large sunglasses that hid most of her features. Ukamaka's eyes narrowed as she watched Adama walking. Something about her seemed off. As Adama passed by, a strange foul smell filled the air. It was sharp and sour, like rotten meat or something worse. The students covered their noses, their faces twisted in disgust. "What is that smell?" one of the students asked, her voice muffled by her hand. "It smells like a dead animal." Everyone looked at each other, and then their eyes slowly turned to Adama, who ignored the whispers and continued into the room. She opened her makeup bag, acting as though nothing was wrong. "Who's going first today?" she asked, her voice calm but distant. But no one moved. The smell was so strong, so terrible, that no one wanted to be near her. Even Ukamaka felt a deep sense of unease. Something was very wrong, and now the other students could feel it too. One by one, they started to gather their things, walking out of the studio, unable to stand the horrible stench any longer. Adama's eyes flashed with frustration, but she said nothing as her students left. Even Ukamaka decided to leave, but as Ukamaka walked away from the studio, Adama grabbed her arm. "I know what you did, and you will pay for that." Ukamaka didn't know what Adama was talking about. She simply pushed Adama's tight grip off her arm. Weeks passed, and Adama's studio remained closed. The once lively place where women flocked to learn the art of beauty had become silent. The shutters were down, the doors locked, and no one had seen Adama for what felt like an eternity. People whispered about her disappearance, but no one dared to ask too many questions. There was something unsettling in the air, something no one wanted to talk about. But Ukamaka couldn't shake the feeling that something was still unfinished. She had to go to Adama's mansion. She had to find out what was going on. After asking around and making a few calls, Ukamaka finally managed to get Adama's address. The mansion wasn't far from her home, but it felt like it was a world away. As she approached the house, Ukamaka felt a strange sense of dread, as if the air around her was heavier, darker. The grand gates were closed, the house quiet, but Ukamaka could feel something pulling her closer, something dark and powerful. Finally, Ukamaka pushed open the gates and walked up the long driveway. She could feel it. Something was wrong. The mansion loomed ahead of her, its windows dark, like eyes watching her approach. When Ukamaka reached the door, she hesitated for a moment, but before she could knock, the door creaked open on its own, as if it had been waiting for her. She stepped inside, her heart racing, her prayers steady in her mind. The inside of the mansion was eerily quiet, but the smell, that awful smell, was back. It was stronger now, filling the air with the scent of decay. Ukamaka covered her nose, trying not to gag, but she pressed forward. She followed the smell, walking deeper into the house, her footsteps echoing through the empty halls. Finally, Ukamaka reached the large room at the end of the hallway. The door was slightly open, and the smell was strongest here. She pushed the door open and stepped inside, her eyes widening in shock at what she saw. The room was dimly lit by candles, their flickering flames casting long shadows on the walls. In the center of the room stood Adama, but she looked nothing like the woman Ukamaka had once known. Her face was pale and old, her eyes sunken, and her once perfect skin was cracked and peeling like old paint falling off a wall. She no longer wore her flawless makeup or her elegant clothes. Instead, she stood there in a tattered color, her hands shaking as she held a small black mortar and pestle, crushing non-stop. As Ukamaka stepped closer, Adama's head snapped up, her eyes wild with fear and rage. "You," Adama hissed, her voice hoarse. "You've been trying to ruin me, haven't you?" Ukamaka shook her head. "No, Adama, I've been trying to understand. What is this? What have you done?" Adama let out a bitter laugh, the sound twisted and painful. "You wouldn't understand. My beauty, my power, it was never mine. I had to take it. I had to steal it from others." Ukamaka's eyes widened. "Steal it? From who?" Adama's face contorted with anger. She looked down at the black mortar in her hands, her grip tightening around it. "I took it. I took it from the women who disappeared." The figure in Ukamaka's dream wasn't just a part of her nightmare. It was a spirit. Beautiful women who didn't have strong faith. Women who disappeared after visiting her studio. These women never left Victoria Gardens alive. Through the mirror in her private room, Adama would call upon the spirits, and the figure from the fire would bring her what she needed. The dried, lifeless skins of the women who had fallen victim to her makeup. The women who had disappeared weren't just forgotten souls.
momentum, keep it up. Time to get into that orange zone, push pace. Orange steering, we go all out together. Shut it down.
They had been sacrificed, their beauty stolen, their lives used to keep Adama's youth intact. Adama would take their skin, dry and shriveled, and crush it into fine powder. She would mix it with her makeup, blending it into the foundation, the blush, the powders that she used on her clients and herself. Some of the skin was burned to ashes, and these ashes became part of the powder she used, and only she can transform the looks. This was her secret. Beauty stolen from others, beauty that came with a price. But now, everything was falling apart. The figure in the fire had been destroyed, and with it, Adama's power. She no longer had the spirit to protect her, no longer had the secret strength that kept her beauty alive. Ukamaka's heart raced as she realized what Adama was saying. You took their beauty? Adama nodded, tears streaming down her cracked cheeks. It was the only way. I was taught by my grandmother, but I went too far. I used the spirits to take what wasn't mine. She held up the mortar. This is all that's left. But now, they've come for me. The spirits want back what I took, and I can't stop them. Ukamaka's stomach churned as she looked at the mortar in Adama's hands, realizing that inside it was the crushed skin from the dried meat she saw in her dreams. The truth was far worse than she had imagined. The mansion creaked as if, too, was alive with the weight of Adama's guilt and the dark power she had summoned. Ukamaka could feel the spirit in the air, restless, angry, demanding what had been stolen. Ukamaka stood before Adama, her heart heavy with sadness. She could see the fear and regret in Adama's eyes, but she also saw the stubbornness. Ukamaka's voice was calm but firm. Adama, I'm not here to judge you, she said softly, but you have to confess. You have to let go of this darkness. If you confess and ask for forgiveness, you can be saved. It's not too late. Adama's hands trembled, gripping the small mortar with crushed skin powder, as if it were the only thing keeping her alive. Her face was pale and cracked. The thought of losing everything, her reputation, her power, the life she had built, terrified her more than the spirits that haunted her. No, Adama whispered, shaking her head, her eyes wide with desperation. I can't. Don't you see?
It's the season for holiday deals at Best Buy. The things and soon.
I'm Sophia. As an engineer, I explore what the next frontier of tech can bring to our plants to reach higher standards of industrial excellence and
Many years ago, in the capital city of Ikeja, lived a young lady named Agozi, whose heart burned for the things of God. She came to the city a couple of years ago in search of greener pastures and had had to stay with her elder brother ever since then. Agozi was raised up in the way of the Lord and spent most of her childhood working in the church. As such, when she moved to the city, she immediately located a Bible-believing church and joined in. It did not take long before she became popular because of her dedication and fervor for God. She became
Guys, everything is wet.
Choir, and you could always see her giving praise on worship every Sunday. Her elder brother soon helped her to secure a receptionist job in a firm, and for the moment, it seemed everything was going on well in Agosi's life until she started to attract suitors. Agosi was a beauty to behold, in and out, and this beauty drew lots of men to her. Her beauty also had an advantage because she could naturally attract favor from people, from getting friends to was on one of such favored days that she met a young, handsome man who came to the firm where she worked to see the manager. Agozi attended to him politely, and just before he left, he gave her a little gift for being kind and professional. However, the next day, he came by again, but this time around, not to see anyone but Agozi. Miss Agozi, good day. How are you today? Izu asked with a smile. Agozi was surprised to see him, but returned the smile. Good day, sir. I am very fine. Would you like to see the manager? Izu shook his head. No, I came to see you today. It's just a casual visit. I couldn't get over my encounter with you yesterday, and I decided to come satisfy my curiosity, if you don't mind. Agozi smiled approvingly, and then Izu went on to ask her some things about herself. By the end of their discussion, they already had a silent connection. Izu was a junior pastor in a church, and so their spirits seemed to align in addition to their values too. Izu extended a hand of friendship to Agozi, and she accepted, convinced that it was an innocent gesture. From that day on, Izu would call her for long hours and also show up at her workplace with a surprise lunch. The friendship was a sweet one, with each of them respecting their boundaries and values. While this was going on, Agozi still continued with her service at church, and it was there that she met another young man named Okon. Every Sunday after service, the moment Agozi stepped foot out of the church building, Okon would come up to her to compliment her for one thing or the other. Agozi felt it was just a harmless gesture, and so she didn't read much into it until when he started to appear with gifts too. At this time, Agozi began to suspect that he wanted more, but much to her surprise, Ugonna never said a word to her until months later when Ugonna asked to take her out for lunch that Sunday afternoon. Agozi agreed and went out with him. As they were eating, Ugonna paused and looked at her for a brief moment before clearing his throat. Agozi, I know you might be wondering why I brought you out here. Well, I believe it is time I open my heart to you. I have known you for a while now, and I don't need anyone to tell me that you are an angel. But what I didn't know was that you would be the angel meant for me. Agozi's eyes narrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Ugonna then continued. I have been praying seriously to God for some months now, for him to lead me to my life partner, the right woman for me. My bone and the flesh of my flesh. And each time couldn't get over my encounter with you yesterday, and I decided to come satisfy my curiosity, if you don't mind. Agozi smiled approvingly, and then Izu went on to ask her some things about herself. By the end of their discussion, they already had a silent connection. Izu was a junior pastor in a church, and so their spirits seemed to align in addition to their values too. Izu extended a hand of friendship to Agozi, and she accepted, convinced that it was an innocent gesture. From that day on, Izu would call her for long hours and also show up at her workplace with a surprise lunch. The friendship was a sweet one, with each of them respecting their boundaries and values. While this was going on, Agozi still continued with her service at church, and it was there that she met another young man named Ugonna. Every Sunday after service, the moment Agozi stepped foot out of the church building, Ugonna would come up to her to compliment her for one thing or the other. Agozi felt it was just a harmless gesture, and so she didn't read much into it until when he started to appear with gifts too. At this time, Agozi began to suspect that he wanted more, but much to her surprise, Ugonna never said a word to her until months later when Ugonna asked to take her out for lunch that Sunday afternoon. Agozie agreed and went out with him. As they were eating, Ugonna paused and looked at her for a brief moment before clearing his throat. Agozie, I know you might be wondering why I brought you out here. Well, I believe it is time I open my heart to you. I have known you for a while now, and I don't need anyone to tell me that you are an angel. But what I didn't know was that you would be the angel meant for me. Agozie's eyes narrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Ugonna then continued. I have been praying seriously to God for some months now, for him to lead me to my life partner, the right woman for me, the bone of my bone and the flesh of my flesh. And each time I get a revelation, I see you standing in white, smiling at me and beckoning to me to come to you. At first, I wasn't sure and I didn't want to mix things up. But then, for the past few weeks, whenever I sleep, I am always seeing you singing melodiously. And then, when I come to join you in singing, the heavens open beautifully. A sign that this union will be perfect. Agozie, I don't want to delay further. You are the one God has chosen for me. I want you to be my wife. Agozie's eyes widened in shock as she swallowed hard. Brother Ugonna, thank you for telling me this, but I'll have to pray about it and then give you a reply. As Agozie got back home that evening, she slumped into her bed. She was in deep confusion. Just yesterday, Izu had asked her to marry him, and she told him that she would pray about it. And now, out of the blues, Ugonna is asking for the same thing. This is going to be really hard. Izu is a good man. He is a young pastor with good values and a bright future too. Ugonna is also a good man, even though he doesn't have good physical looks. But then, the heart is what really matters, right? He has been a serious Christian and dedicated worker in the church since she could remember. And from their little encounters, Ugonna seemed to be a gentleman. Oh God, I am confused. What should I do? I don't want to make a life mistake. Please direct me. Lead me well. Let me choose the right person. Please, God, reveal to me. Open my eyes that I may see your will for me. Agozie prayed and prayed that day. But then, even after praying, she knew she still needed guidance in making the right choice. So, she decided to tell her husband and also her elder brother. They were the bigger authorities in her life, and so she trusted their counsel. She took the full names and pictures of to their church pastor and explained her confusion to him. The pastor assured her that he would pray over the names and get back to her on what God reveals. Agozie was a bit relieved by the response, and while she was waiting, she informed her elder brother about her two suitors. Eugene, her elder brother, was pleased with the news. Agozie, you are now a big girl, to the extent of having two serious suitors. Anyway, it is a good thing, but then it is a very delicate situation. Marriage is a lifetime venture and one that is capable of destroying or building someone. How happy the person who gets it right with marriage, but sadly, only few get it right. I understand that the two men are serious church boys, but you must know that there are wolves among sheep. Jesus Christ said it himself. And the difficult thing is that it is even hard to detect the wolves when they are mixed among the sheep. That is why I am not usually moved when someone tells me I met my fiancé in the church or crusade. The devil deploys his agents everywhere, especially to the church. So this is what will happen. While we pray, we also need to use our God-given sense. I want to see the two men first. And then what to do. Agozi nodded and thanked her brother for his support. She informed Izu and Ugonna about her brother's intention to see them, and the two men chose different dates to visit. However, before they visited, the church pastor called for Agozie to give her a response. Sister Agozie, you are blessed. I have sought the face of God. The two men are favored before God. However, you must know that even before God, there are levels and hierarchy. Izu is a pastor, good, but we can't vouch for him. He doesn't belong to our church, so we can only say things about him on the surface. And remember what the Bible says about charm being deceptive. On the physical, it should seem like the first choice, but it is not so. Brother Ugonna we know and we can vouch for. We have watched him for years, and he has been a true soldier of Christ. So, Sister Agozie, in this situation, Brother Ugonna sits higher in the hierarchy. This is what God says. Agozie's heart was pounding nervously at this point in her chest. So Ugonna is God's choice for her. Thank you so much, Pastor. I really appreciate your guidance. However, Agozie kept this in her heart and did not tell anyone. The day came when Izu was to visit her elder brother Eugene, and much to Agozie's shock, the two men flowed naturally as if they had known themselves for ages. Eugene threw some questions at Izu, who answered them smoothly, and it didn't take long before they were laughing and talking like buddies. By the time Izu left, Eugene told Agozie that Izu had a good soul. You know I have a very good discerning spirit. This one is a special gift the Holy Spirit gave to me. I can assure you that Izu will make a good husband for you. But then, I will not conclude yet until I see the second man. Agozie nodded slowly as the pastor's words came ringing in her head. Charm is deceptive. Could this be true? Is it really possible that her brother had been carried away by Izu's looks and personality? No doubt, Izu is a very fine man, but then that is not what matters. Anyway, she would wait until Ugonna comes before she says anything. A few days later, Ugonna came visiting, and when Eugene saw him, he treated him warmly, the same way he treated Izu. But then, the reaction was not the same. Ugonna was a naturally gentle man who did not speak much. As such, it would take a longer time to be able to read through him, because it would be unfair to judge him with his looks that were on the opposite side of fine, or his calm demeanor. But this was not the situation with Eugene. Eugene's discerning spirit set him apart and made him a very sharp and sensitive Christian. As such, he could already read through Ugonna. So, when Ugonna left, he called Agozie. Agozie, is this the man you said attends your church? My spirit senses something strange in him. He is not who he seems to be, and I am afraid if you end up with him, you might regret it. Agozie was shocked. Brother, why would you say something like that? Is it because he's not as outspoken or good-looking as you had expected? Eugene waved his hands. Come off that, Agozie. You know I am not superficial. Even if I want to be, my spirit won't let me. That man's spirit is not in any way related to the true spirit. I could feel a strange cloud around him. But then, how would you know for sure when he is among the brethren? I don't want you to gamble into this. So, I will advise you to delete him out of your options. If you don't have any other suitor, then that other pastor guy is a good choice for you. Agozie looked at her brother unbelievably. Her brother was one of the leading members at a Bible-believing church, but definitely, he was not a pastor. So how would he know better than her own pastor, who has been a shepherd for long? Brother, I have prayed about this, and I also sought my pastor's counsel. From what was revealed to us, Okon is the one God has kept for me. He's my husband. Eugene stood up immediately in anger. Agozie, anyway, it will take some time for you to understand it, but don't be carried away. Ugonna is not what he seems to be. He won. Agozie watched him walk out, but she didn't bother thinking about anything. God has spoken to her. Ugonna is the one for me. Charm is deceptive. I will never allow myself to be carried away by Izu's charm. Never. As such, Agozie went behind her brother and gave Ugonna her response to marry him. She also told Izu that she wouldn't marry him because she already had a fiancé. Izu was shattered. He cried and begged for Agozie to have a rebuke. He promised to never disappoint her and to be a good husband to her. But Agozie's mind was made up. She would marry Ugonna and nobody would stop her. When Eugene heard that Agozie was still hell-bent on marrying Ugonna, he flew into a rage. He would never allow his only sister to make a life mistake. He won't let her fall into the trap. Agozie, it is better you don't get married at all if Ugonna is the only person you know. I have told you to leave that man alone. He's not your husband. And mind you, if you insist on marrying him, then you cease to be my sister. I will no longer have anything to do with you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Agozie was terrified. She had never seen her brother behave this way before. But why was he hell-bent on making her go against God's will? God couldn't have lied to her and the pastor. She was really worried and scared. But she comforted herself that it was better to disobey man than to disobey God. She would marry Ugonna and prove her brother wrong. He would then realize that his spirit could mislead him too sometimes. Agozie told Ugonna about her brother's refusal to support their union, and he too was also worried. But she assured him that she wouldn't back off. Since this is the will of God for us, I will fight for this. I know there will be challenges, but I didn't know it would be from my own brother. I just need you to stand with me, and we'll be all right. We should also tell the pastor so he can guide us well. Ugonna nodded his head, and they then went together to see the pastor. After listening to their challenge, the pastor reassured them and prayed for them, pledging to support them at any time. With this confidence, Agozie became more bold and determined. She told Ugonna to hurry up with the marriage plans, and when he was ready, she took him to her village to meet her uncles for the traditional rites. Since Eugene, her elder brother, had sworn that he would not support her, she would bypass him then. After the bride price payments, Agozie returned to the city with Ugonna, but she couldn't go back to her brother's house again. She decided to stay with one of their church sisters, pending when their union would be blessed in the church. Ugonna didn't waste time and made the necessary preparation for the holy matrimony. On that day, the whole church was filled to its brim, as everyone wanted to grace the wedding of the beautiful sister Agozie. They received a lot of gifts, and just before the ceremony ended, Agozie sighted Izu coming up to her. She was shocked to see him, but before she could say anything, Izu smiled and handed her a wrapped gift. Agozie, I can see that you are truly happy. Congratulations to you, and I wish you a blissful marriage. Please accept this gift from me for friendship's sake. Agozie smiled and accepted it. Thank you, Izu. I really appreciate this. She handed it to her maid of honor and told her to keep it apart. Throughout the wedding ceremony, Agozie kept around searching for any sign of her elder brother Eugene, but she didn't see him. He had kept true to his promise of cutting ties with her if she insisted on marrying Ugonna. Anyway, since he had moved on, she too would try to move on no matter how hard it was. Just before they left the venue, Agozie opened the gifts Izu had given to her, and she was surprised to see a Bible and some money in there. Her heart jumped up as she held the gifts. Izu was truly a good man, but definitely not the will of God for her. She just prayed that God would give him his own wife. After the wedding, Agozie moved in with Ugonna, who lived not too far from the church, and the first month of the marriage was like heaven on earth. Ugonna was a man of few words, but his actions covered up for him in that aspect. He worked as a painter, and whenever he got a contract, he would divide the money into two and give one half to Agozie. He never returned home without buying something for her, whether big or small, and he provided all her needs before she even asked. Agozie was pampered as a wife, and she was glad that she didn't reject Ugonna. Once in a while, she would wish that her brother would have a rethink and come see how good of a husband Ugonna was. Agozie continued to enjoy her marriage until one day when Ugonna returned home with unexpected news. Agozie, we are moving out of this house. My business has been slow of late, and I can't keep up with the rent again. We'll move to a more affordable place. Agozie was shocked by the news. Honey, what exactly is the problem? Is there any way I can help? But Ugonna waved her off. The only solution is to move out. Once we move out, everything will be fine. So just start gathering our things together. We'll be moving anytime from now. Agozie sighed sadly. Okay, but can I know where we are moving to? I'm just asking because of my job, so I can know if it is close to my workplace. Ugonna stood up to leave, but before he left, he muttered, we are moving to Ota. I have already rented a place for us there. Before Agozie could process the whole information, Ugonna had already walked out. Wait, I heard Ota now, or is my ear paining me? No, Ota. How can? He already rented a place without letting me know first. What will happen to my work? The church, the community we already have here. Really? Is this happening? God, what does this mean? Is this a good thing? Okay, I trust you. I believe you are leading Ugonna in whatever he's doing. It did not take up to 2 weeks before Ugonna brought a truck and moved all their things to the new place. The previous Sunday, they had already informed the church about their move, and they prayed for them and wished them well. They arrived at the house, and Agozie was even more than disappointed to see the new place. The house was a one-room apartment and very small compared to where they were staying before. But Agozie did not complain. She just calmly joined in arranging the pieces, silently praying that God delivers him from whatever it was he was going through, because it was obvious that he was definitely going through something, but was just pretending to be a strong man. Days after they settled in, Ugonna resumed work. He would leave home in the morning and take several buses back to the place where they had just moved from, because that was where he was known for his skill. Before leaving, he would drop off some money that was just enough for Agozie to feed with that day. Gradually, the gifts and surprise money stopped, and Agozie found herself struggling to manage with what Ugonna gave to her. Since they moved to Ota, she had not been able to get another job. And in fact, she was not even looking for a job for now, and her focus was on getting pregnant. Whenever Ugonna goes out for work, Agozie would hurry up with the house chores and then go out to get some foodstuffs with the little money he dropped for her. There was an elderly woman who ran a foodstuff shop, and that was where Agozie usually patronized. However, even after getting what she wanted, she would stay back at the woman's shop because she would be bored if she returned home too soon. This woman's name was Mama Chi, and she soon became like a mother to Agozie and the backbone she never knew she would need in her marriage. At this time, Ugonna and Agozie were still regular members of their church, and every Sunday they would spend a lot on commercial buses just to get to the church. It wasn't an issue because Agozie was very lucky, as one or two members would give her cash gifts whenever they came. So that was more than enough to cover for their tea fare. It didn't take long before Agozie discovered that she was pregnant, and it was like a dream come true. When she informed Ugonna about it, he too was pleased with the news, but then it seemed as though he had been battling with himself to keep up the good husband chariot, and at the moment he had gotten to his limits because the way Ugonna changed overnight, one would think that he was jazzed. A few weeks after Agozie found out that she was pregnant, Ugonna stopped going to work regularly, and as such, he stopped giving her money for feeding. Agozie couldn't keep silent anymore, and so she asked him about it. Honey, you haven't been going to work lately. Is everything okay? Ugonna looked at her sharply and muttered under his breath, work is bad. I have not been getting contracts like before. Agozie sighed sadly. I am so sorry about that. God will open doors for you. She then paused for a moment before speaking again. Honey, there is no foodstuffs in the house. I was thinking if you could give me some money to get some things for us to eat. Ugonna turned and looked at her ridiculously and then said, is there no gari in the house? Take some and drink. There is no money. You should learn to manage now. Agozie was shocked. I should drink gari, but I am pregnant. It is not healthy. Besides, there is no sugar or milk to add to it. How do I drink it? She was still complaining when Ugonna left her and went to lay down on the bed unbothered. Agozie just sat there looking at him in disbelief. How will a man even be thinking of sleeping when his house is on fire? If his painting job is not doing well at the moment, why can't he look for something else to do? God, what is the meaning of this? Will I die of hunger like this? No, I need to look for something to do, no matter how little. Agozie thought to herself. She quietly went to take some gari and added salt into it. After drinking it, she left the house and went to Mama Chi's shop. The moment Mama Chi saw her, she knew that something was wrong with her. Agozie, what is the matter? Did you quarrel with anybody? Agozie tried to hold back and keep her marriage a secret, but then she couldn't. She didn't even know when she broke down. I am just tired. I don't want to start complaining because it is too early, but this was not what I bargained for at all. Can you imagine that my husband cannot provide food for his pregnant wife? He only goes out to work once in a week and then spends the remaining days sleeping unbothered. I had a good job before he asked us to leave that city and move to this place. Now, I have no job, no business, and no money. He's just treating me as if he doesn't care. Can you believe that it is only gari that I have taken today? Not gari and soup. Drinking gari, it is not fair. Agozie lamented. Mama Chi listened patiently and then She went to get some food for Agozie. Take. I made it this morning before coming to the shop. I still have enough for me and my children. But Agozie, you are still new to marriage, so you need to follow everything through with wisdom and patience. This thing wouldn't have been a big issue if you had a job. With your own money, you can look after yourself and not be at the mercy of any man. He might be doing this on purpose because he knows you have nothing, or better still, maybe he's not even doing it on purpose. But whichever is the case, you need to start up something, no matter how little. It is just that you are currently pregnant, and most companies or even schools would not employ you in this condition. You can't even start a business because you don't have capital. So for now, just concentrate on having this child. Then after that, you will definitely get something to do. Have you started getting your baby essentials? Mama Chi asked, but Agozie looked lost. Wait to Agozie, have you even started antenatal? Agozie shook her head. No, I'm still trying to get money for it. Mama Chi was shocked. You must be joking. Do you want to endanger yourself and your baby? Don't you know you should have started antenatal? If you can't afford private hospitals, then go to the government ones. They are free. Please, tomorrow, get ready and go to the hospital. You need to be sure that your baby is in good condition, Mama Chi advised. Agozie nodded, and after spending some time there, she returned home. When she returned, she met Ugonna still sleeping, and it was the noise she made that woke him up. Agozie, take this money, go and make soup so we can eat tonight. Mind you, that soup will be for 1 week, so manage the money well. Agozie collected the money from him and was dumbfounded when she counted it, and it was 475 naira. She opened her mouth to talk, to protest, to say something, but words failed her. After standing for some minutes looking at him sadly, she turned around and left the house before the hot tears that was welling up in her eyes would drop. She went back to Mama Chi's shop and showed her the money, telling her that this was what her husband gave her to cook with. Mama Chi calmed her down and told her to see what she could do with it. Agozie ended up getting crayfish, palm oil, green vegetables, and a lot of soup thickener. She would cook watery soup and then use the thickener to make it thick. As she cooked the soup, her heart broke. Never would she have thought that this was what her life would be reduced to. Even when she was still living with her brother, she had never had to eat this. Thinking of my brother Eugene, who knows how he would be by now? Better than me, obviously. I can't even let him know what I am passing through now. He would jeer at me and then abandon me to my fate. But I didn't do anything wrong, did I? I only followed God's will for me. Or did I make a mistake? Did I mistake God's will for me? No, now. It is too early, please. It's not even up to 6 months since I got married. I believe this is just normal early marriage crisis. Ugonna is a good man. He wouldn't treat me badly. I should just be patient with him and also pray for him more. Agozie thought to herself, and with that, her spirit became refreshed, and she started to sing joyfully while cooking the soup. It was already evening when she finished cooking, so she made eba and dished out the soup. But another heartbreaking shock awaited her. When she brought out the food, Ugonna told her to get another plate for him, and when she brought it, he divided the soup into two. Agozie was confused as to why he did that because they usually ate in the same plates. But then she was shocked when Ugonna brought out a wrapped nylon and poured out its contents into his own portion of soup. Lo and behold, it was a very large quantity of suya. Agozie's eyes widened in shock. Honey, is this suya like real meat? I thought you said you didn't have money. But you would have given me this money to buy meat for the soup instead of spending this much on suya. Ugonna pretended to not hear her and just started eating his food while enjoying his suya. Agozie tried to pick some suya for herself, but Ugonna slapped off her hands and warned her, "What nonsense is that? So you don't have respect again. Don't try this ever again in your life." Agozie recoiled in fear. She couldn't believe what just happened. She didn't even want to think about it, but as she sat in silence, eating her watery soup and watching her husband eating his different soup, the only thing that rang in her head was wicked. The wicked heart of man. How would a man reduce his wife, his pregnant wife, to this? No, Ugonna is not wicked. This is not who he is. Something is definitely wrong. The devil is at work here, but I will not let him win, Agozie thought to herself. The next morning, when Agozie woke up, Ugonna was already up and ready to leave the house. Agozie sat up on the bed and was surprised to see him all dressed. "Honey, good morning. Are you going out today?" Ugonna ignored her questions and instead gave her some money. "Take this. Use it to feed today. Don't worry about me." Agozie collected the money, but her hands froze in the air when she counted it and realized that it was just 250 naira. "But, honey, thank you. But I would like to start antenatal. You know the pregnancy is already past 3 months, and it is my first time. I need medical care." Ugonna looked impatient at this time, and he just muttered, "I don't have money for that now." He then went out, leaving Agozie still staring in shock. She got a grip on herself and prepared to go out. She went to Mama Chi's shop and narrated all that happened the previous night and that morning to Mama Chi, who was shocked and found it unbelievable. This is strange, but come to think of it, did you and this man cut at all? Like, did you not see the signs before you married him? Because I'm sorry to say, but these are traces of wickedness. Agozie sighed sadly. He was not like this. I met him in the church, but we didn't really cut for long. But I knew him to be a good Christian. Plus, I got the confirmation from God that he's my real husband. Mama Chi scoffed. Church, Christian. Is that what they used to deceive you people? So you think because you met a man in the church, that automatically makes him a good person? Don't you know that character is different? A person can be good and kind and not even be a Christian, while a so-called strong Christian can be as wicked as the devil. It all boils down to personality and upbringing, and most times, if the person is naturally wicked, like if the wickedness reaches the person's blood, that one is one chance. So it will only take God himself to flush out that person's blood. I just hope you haven't fallen into a deadly trap. Let's just pray that maybe he's facing some financial challenge and would soon come around. Agozie nodded slowly and hopefully. Yes, I am praying. He wasn't like this. And do you know the worst part? He doesn't talk. He might be in this house for the whole day and we won't even talk for up to 30 minutes. He's so gentle. He doesn't seem like someone who could do such a thing. I just hope that this phase passes soon. Facing this in my pregnant state is so heartbreaking. I just feel alone. Mama Chi looked at her pitifully. It is well, my dear. What about your family? Have you told them about what you are currently facing? Maybe they could help. Agozie looked away sadly. I only have my elder brother, and he has disowned me. He never wanted me to marry Ugonna, so I can't even go to him now. Mama Chi was confused at this point. But you just said that you got several confirmation that Ugonna was your real husband. How come your brother was not in support? Agozie then had to explain in details all that transpired between Eugene, Izu, Ugonna, the pastor, and her at that time. It was then that Mama Chi fully understood what happened. This one is strong, bro. You lost your only family because of a man that has not even proven himself to you, just because of the words of your pastor. You know, sometimes we humans can be sentimental and also make mistakes. Did you even stop to think then that maybe Ugonna was the choice because he attended your church? Because from this your story, it was Izu that you actually knew very well. You have been friends with him for a longer time, and your brother even approved of him, which was supposed to be a plus, but rather you went with your pastor's words and probably a Bible verse that was wrongly interpreted by you both to fit in your purpose. No, this is not good. From every indication, Ugonna might be more than what you see. You are still fresh in marriage and you have started seeing this. What will happen when you have children? When you stay for years? What if he refuses you from ever working just so he could suppress you more? Because I see no reason why he should relocate you people from where you had a good life and a supportive community who could help you to this secluded area where you don't even know anyone. Okay, that is enough. Let's not cook up more problems with our imagination. Just go to the government hospital. I will give you some money for transport. Go and make sure that your baby is fine. Agozie thanked Mama Chi and then left for the hospital. But as she walked down to the bus stop, she couldn't help but think about everything they had discussed. What if Ugonna is really not the man she thought he was? What if she had made a grave mistake? What if she quickly shook off the thoughts from her head and focused on her trip to the hospital? Thankfully, everything was fine with her and she was just given routine drugs to aid her. She returned home and managed with what she could afford. There was rice at home, so she used the 250 naira to get little veggies and crayfish. Deep down, Agozie was craving bananas and chilled yogurt, but at this point, she needed no one to tell her to push the cravings behind. Crayfish was now her favorite and easy source of protein. Later that night, Ugonna returned home from wherever he went to, and immediately he sat down. He brought out a big plate of catfish pepper soup and started to devour. The aroma of the pepper soup was so tempting that Agozie almost begged Ugonna for some. It was the main expression on his face that held her back. She just silently went back to bed and forced herself to sleep.
Make the most of your holidays with the Kroger app. You can enjoy over $600 in digital coupons every week. Get access to low prices and earn fuel points to save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump. The Kroger app makes it.
Unfortunately for Agozie, this was just the beginning of her marital reality. Every day, Ugonna would show her one shaggy or the other, not feeling any remorse at all. She struggled to put up with it all through the pregnancy, but towards the end of the pregnancy, she still had not gotten anything for the baby or for her maternity care. She was at a loss for what to do, and so she decided to do anything, no matter how desperate. That morning, as Ugonna prepared to go out again, after dropping 200 naira for her, she fell to her knees and begged, "Honey, please, my due date is getting closer. I don't have anything in preparation for it. Please, I need to buy some things. Give me some money." But Ugonna ignored her and wanted to leave when she suddenly shouted, "If you don't give me money, I will have to go to the church and beg from the members, from the pastor, anybody. I can't keep on dying in silence." Ugonna seemed to pause in his tracks for a second before stepping out. Agozie fell to the floor and cried bitterly. She had been enduring it all in silence, praying that it comes to an end one day. But it seems that the more she covered it up, the worse it became. At this point, she didn't care about anything again. She would look for a way to borrow money to transport herself to the church on Sunday and seek help there. Surely, someone would take pity on her. But Agozie didn't need to go that far because that same afternoon, Ugonna returned with a very big bag. Agozie was surprised to see him back home early, but she was even more surprised to see that he came with a lot of baby essentials. Before she could say anything, he explained to her, "See, Agozie, I know I have not been in my best of behavior of late, but that's because I have been passing through some things. Don't take my actions to heart. I just need to take care of some stuffs, and very soon, all will be well again." Agozie was dumbfounded. She just nodded her head as she went through the many baby things he came home with. In addition to that, he also gave her some money to use to get whatever she needed. And Agozie's heart melted. She thanked him and prayed in her heart that this good thing that had started in her marriage will continue forever. Weeks later, Agozie went into labor. Ugonna had gone out very early that day, and so she was alone at that time. She had to call Mama Chi, who came with her husband and took her to the government hospital. Mama Chi called Ugonna to inform him that his wife was about to give birth, and he told her that he would soon be there. Hours later, Agozie gave birth to a healthy baby boy, but Ugonna was still yet to arrive. It was Mama Chi who went home and prepared a proper meal for Agozie, who was very hungry. It was later that night that Ugonna arrived at the hospital to see his wife and son, and he gave the excuse of being caught up in work and traffic. He thanked Mama Chi for assisting his wife and then went to the reception to sort the bills. As Ugonna left, Mama Chi could not help but look at him disgustedly. What did Agozie even see in this man? He's not even fine in the face, neither is he fine at heart. What exactly did she see that convinced her to get married to this kind of man? Now, wow.
Welcome to 10 Years Gifted, the Google shopping game show where the deals are endless and everyone wins.
I am shopping for my biggest hater, my grandma. I'm shopping for her. I'd like to shop for you.
Am I allowed to do that? Yes, you are. The goal is to score as many deals as possible to mark them off your gift list. Turn tape.
Days later, Agozie was discharged and Ugonna got a cab to take them home. With the way Ugonna behaved at the hospital, Agozie felt that he had truly changed and looked forward to a happy home with their newborn son. But much to her disappointment, the moment they arrived home and were alone, Ugonna returned to the same old person he was. He showed no care for his wife or the new baby. He refused to assist Agozie, and neither did he give her money to feed well as a breastfeeding mother. It was the money he had given her before she gave birth that she fell back to at the time. And then, one day, when the baby was just 2 months old, he fell terribly sick, up to the point that he was admitted at the hospital. Agozie rushed him to the government hospital, where he was attended to. After the treatment, they were held back because Agozie could not afford the hospital bills. She called Ugonna, but he ignored her calls and was nowhere to be found. Out of shame, Agozie had to call the pastor's wife and pleaded for help with the bill. The pastor's wife gave her the money, but then she was worried about Agozie. Sister Agozie, what really is the answer? Since you and brother Ugonna got married and moved far away, we hardly see you here in church. Look for a way to see me. I want to see you and your husband. I will inform Pastor about it. We need to see you too. Agozie swallowed hard and agreed, but she knew that this was going to be trouble for her. This was why she had avoided calling anyone from the church for help, so that it doesn't look as though she intentionally reported Ugonna. But now that the pastor's wife knows, how will she explain to Ugonna? Will he even agree to go with her? Do you think Ugonna will take it easy on Agozie for seeking help from the pastor's wife? Will he agree to go with her? What will Agozie's fate be? We'll find out in part 2. Thank you for watching this story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story.
Come on, Mufasa. Let's get in some trouble.
It's time. I'll tell you a story. About the prince, you know his scar. And an orphan who
I can't wait to watch Mufasa.
Mufasa was discharged from the hospital, and when they returned home, she was shocked to see Ugonna sleeping unbothered. She took a deep sigh and ignored him, instead going on to prepare a meal. She had bought some things with the remaining money left from what the pastor's wife had given to her. Her son, whom they named Uchenna, was deep asleep by now. And it wasn't until she sat down to eat that Ugonna woke up. Agozie, get me something to eat. I am hungry, Ugonna said casually. Agozie's heart skipped a beat as anger started to boil inside of her. How insensitive could he be? Which food? The one he brought money for, or what? He wasn't even bothered about his son who had been sick. What had possessed this man, for God's sake? But Agozie did not say anything out. She tried to calm herself down and went into the kitchen to get his food. But as she dropped his food, she couldn't hold back again. Are you not going to ask about your son? Uchenna was sick and I kept on calling you to come over. We didn't even have money to pay for his bills. Are you not going to ask how he is? How we are able to come back? Agozie asked without catching a breath. Ugonna started to eat his food unbothered, as if he didn't hear her. After a moment, he said, "Are you people not back now? Is it not Uchenna that I am seeing sleeping soundly over there? If something was too wrong, you wouldn't be here now." Agozie bit her lips in anger because if she voiced out what she had in mind, the roof would come down. She knew she still had to convince him to go see the pastor and his wife with her. Thinking of it now, maybe it is really time they visited the pastor. After all, he was the one who saw the vision and convinced her to marry him. He needs to see the outcome of his vision. After Ugonna had finished eating, Agozie cleared the table and then sat down to discuss. "Honey, the pastor's wife, we spoke today and she said they have not been seeing us, that we should come and see them." Ugonna looked at Agozie silently and without saying a word to her, he went off to bed. Agozie sat, still confused. What is going on in his mind now? I pray he agrees to go. He just asked to go. The next morning, as Ugonna was about leaving for work, Agozie ran to meet him. "Honey, good morning. You are going out already. You didn't drop money for us to eat today." But Ugonna glared at her. "Didn't you go running your mouth to the pastor's wife yesterday? I am very sure that after hearing your tragic story, she would have given you a lot of money to last you for 1 year. So don't disturb me." Ugonna warned and walked out. Agozie was shocked and also speechless. No, this is getting serious. This man will never agree to see the pastor. I need to tell mommy to beg daddy to call Ugonna by himself. Maybe when he tells him to come by himself, he will agree. Just as expected, the pastor called Ugonna, and only then did he agree to go visit them. The following weekend, Ugonna and his family went over to meet the pastor. They were warmly welcomed, and then the real meeting began. Brother Ugonna, there are some things that I want to tackle concerning your marriage. I believe that marriage is meant to be a blessing to both partners, even though there will be some challenges. But it is better when that challenge is from outside rather than within. That way, it is easier to tackle it as a team. I remember how everything started, and I know that God was at the center of it all. So, if there is any challenge you're facing, please let us know so we can know how to help you. The pastor said, but Ugonna kept a straight face and replied, "Thank you for your concern, sir, but there is no problem in our home. We are doing just fine." The pastor's wife looked at Ugonna and then at Agozie. She could see that Agozie was trying so hard to hide her emotions, so she chipped in. Brother Ugonna, you know that most times this marriage is not usually the same for men and women. The women seem to have it difficult most times. I was surprised when Sister Agozie called me last week about your sick son. She was really in distress at the time, and maybe if I hadn't helped when I did, things would have escalated. Brother Ugonna, you're spiritual parents, and you shouldn't hide anything from us. Sister Agozie, I want you to be free. Voice your concerns. Let us know where the devil is digging from. Agozie adjusted in her seat. She had a lot to say, but she was afraid. How will Ugonna take it if she exposes him in front of outsiders? But then, what more could he do? He was already starving them, so it was better to get it out once and for all. Thank you, sir. Ma, thank you for this opportunity. I remember when my husband came to ask for my hand in marriage, I brought his name to you for prayers and guidance, and as God may have it, it was confirmed that he was the one for me. But sir, I am sorry to say, I don't think it was God that spoke. Agozie said and burst out into tears. I know there are challenges in marriage, but my own is far beyond that. It is as if the devil is at the center of this marriage. The way my husband changed overnight still makes me shocked up till now. He starved me even when I was pregnant. He doesn't care about me or this child, but you need to see him eating in my presence as if he's a king. He will give me 200 naira to cook, but then he will go out and spend over 10,000 naira on food. Is that not wickedness? I am just enduring it because I know I went into this myself. But every day, I doubt if it was God that really spoke. From what I know, the blessings of God added no sorrow. Agozie went on, bearing all that she had been holding in her heart, and the pastor and his wife were shocked. The pastor then gave his wife a sign to give him privacy, as he wanted to speak to Ugonna privately. She nodded and then took Agozie out. She took Agozie to another room where she counseled her. Sister Agozie, I am so sorry for all you have been through. We all didn't know about this side of Brother Ugonna, but I strongly believe something is wrong here. Do you know if he keeps other women? You know men can change when they meet someone else. But Agozie shook her head. I don't think Ugonna has another woman. The pastor's wife then continued, "It is well, God will settle it. But I need you to use wisdom in all of this. Get something to do. Since you just had a baby, I believe a business will be more suitable. I will talk to the pastor to see a way of supporting you to start up a business. But please, just follow your husband with wisdom and patience, and also pray without ceasing. Prayer is the only solution. Agozie nodded and thanked her. Since the pastor was still talking with Ugonna, Agozie decided to stroll along the streets to take some fresh air. And as she was minding her business, she met an old friend who updated her on the happenings in the area. And that was how Agozie got to know both the news she was interested in and the one she was not interested in. However, two of the news broke her heart to shreds. Her elder brother Eugene had gotten married, and as if that was not enough, Izu, her pastor's suitor, had also gotten married and moved abroad with his new wife. She couldn't have known because Ugonna had ordered her to change her SIM card and got a new number. It was as if he wanted to cut her off from the world she knew. Agozie held on tightly to her son as she tried so hard to fight the tears from pouring down. At this point, she wished things had been different. She wished she had not gone against her brother. She wished she had not rejected Izu. Who knows? Maybe her story would be different. But here she was stuck with the firstborn of the devil. Yes, Ugonna was the same blood and flesh with the devil. He is a wolf. He deceived her. He deceived all of them. At that instant, a word came to Agozie's mind: divorce. And she immediately shouted, God forbid, I can't. No, God hates divorce. I don't want to go against God. Divorce is out of this option. I will fight this. Yes, that is what I will do. If this is the persecution I have to face in life, I will do it. I will fight to make this work. With that, Agozie became more determined and returned back to meet Ugonna, who was already waiting for her. Together, they returned home in silence, and Agozie hoped greatly that there would be a change. Ugonna seemed remorseful, and she wondered what the pastor must have told him, since he did not even get angry at her or try to accuse her of talking too much. That same week, Agozie received a call from the pastor's wife about the money she had promised to give her, and miraculously too, Ugonna gave her some money to add up to start a business of her choice. Agozie was grateful and thanked them both. Surely, the visits had been productive. Apart from the money he gave her for the business, Ugonna had also started to provide more. He would return home with foodstuffs and also give her a reasonable amount of money to cook with. It did not take long before Agozie started the business, and for the moment, it seemed as though life was going on well for her. Business was going on well, and Ugonna was still providing for them. Her son was already 6 months old now and was growing well too. But then, Agozie began to notice a pattern again. For some days, Ugonna had not said a word to her, and neither would he drop off money for her. What he normally does was to remain in bed, obviously pretending to be asleep, until Agozie goes out for business. That way, she wouldn't be able to ask him for money. By the time she returned home in the evening, she wouldn't meet him at home, and so she would have to use her own money to cook for the house. Just when Agozie must have finished cooking and putting her son to sleep, she would hear a knock on the door, and when she goes to open it, she would see Ugonna standing there with a mean face that seemed to say, "Don't even talk to me." Of course, she would also give him dinner with enough meat as the man of the house. Agozie kept doing this patiently, with the hope that Ugonna would be moved by her kindness and have a change of heart soon. But it seemed Ugonna was sold out for bad. In the midst of these things, Agozie soon found out that she was pregnant again. The news sent chills down her spine as she remembered what she went through the last time she was pregnant. When she told Mama Chi about the pregnancy, Mama Chi was very angry at her. How could you, Agozie? Is it that sweet that you can't think? Even if you don't love yourself, why bring these innocent children into such a toxic space? Can we be a good father to them? Or don't you think they deserve a good father as well as a good mother? I am so disappointed in you right now. Agozie sat still, silently accepting all the blame. She too was disappointed in herself. Uchenna had not even felt the love of his father for once. And here she was, about to have another child for this same man. Mama Chi, I don't know. What should I do now? Please, I am just confused. Mama Chi looked at Agozie, obviously irritated at how slow she was. But then, she understood that not everyone was wise in this world. And that was why these monsters kept on having lots of victims. See, Agozie, the deed has been done. You are lucky that you have a business now. So this pregnancy won't really be like the previous one. But for your information, let this not repeat itself. Immediately you put to bed, make sure you go for a very strong birth control method. Or did your pastor preach against that too? Agozie shook her head shamefully. I have been meaning to ask yourself, what is your plan about this whole thing? I mean your long-term plan, because from the look of things, this your husband is gone. I can assure you that this is who he is. He can't change. Have you considered an escape plan? You are still young, so it is not too late to pick up your life again. And that's your pastor friend. Have you heard from him again? Mama Chi asked curiously. Agozie sighed sadly. You mean Izu? I heard he is married and has left the country with his wife. Mama Chi shouted in shock. Eh? Are you serious? Child! Oh, just imagine. See what you have lost. You were supposed to be in that position, but no, you chose an ugly monster. Now look at your life. Child, this one really pained me. So that fine man is now married. Anyway, in life, some people miss their destiny, but one mistake in life does not end one's life. That is why you need to act now. What is your escape plan? Agozie looked lost for a second. Escape? You mean divorce? God forbid. I will never. Mama Chi, please. My faith is against that. Mama Chi looked at Agozie unbelievably. Your faith? You still talk about faith. Do you really have a faith? That same faith that landed you in the lion's den. That is the same faith you're talking about, right? Child, if you were my daughter, I would have used rope to drag you out of that man's house. Did he use juju on you? Who told you that marriage is do or die? You want to kill yourself. Oh, because he hasn't started beating you. For someone with his kind of heart, how long will it take before he starts to beat you? You better give yourself sense. So this life is once. Achieve one. But all the words went into one of Agozie's ears and came out of the other ear. She would never divorce Ugonna. She would never give the devil a chance to rejoice. Instead, she would pray. As such, Agozie erased every thought of divorce from her mind. She soon informed Ugonna that she was pregnant, and his reaction was one of indifference. Okay, that is good. It is not your first time now, so you know what to do. Agozie's heart flinched, but she smiled and kept calm. She would fight this battle and win. But what she didn't know was the angle the battle was coming from. Agozie could have sworn that Ugonna was not seeing any woman. if not for one fateful morning when he was having his bath and his phone rang. She ignored it at first, but then the person kept calling, and out of curiosity, she picked up the call to tell the person to be patient. But the voice she heard threw her off balance. Ugo, why haven't you been picking my calls? I hope you're not trying to avoid me because of the 100,000 naira I asked for. See, if you don't give me that money today, I won't let you touch me again, and you will have to use double of that money to beg me. Hello, Ugo, are you there? Agozie remained silent as the lady on the other end ranted, and she clutched her chest in shock. No, this is not true. Ugonna cannot do this to me. He's cheating on me. When? How? Why? No, you have failed. The devil is a liar. I won't let you destroy my home. Agozie stood firm with her arms akimbo, and as Ugonna came out of the bathroom, she waited for him to put his clothes on before confronting him. How long have you been cheating on me? How long, Ugonna? She shouted. Ugonna looked at her like a clown. Are you going mad? Who are you talking to like that? But Agozie was ready for the roof to come down that day. Ugonna, you are the one who is going mad. You want to give a woman 100,000 naira when you have not given me 500 naira for months. Ugonna, my God will punish you. You are a beast. Your heart is black. Why did you come for me? Were you sent? If you think I will allow you to go and meet that woman, then you are dreaming. You will not go anywhere today. Ugonna tried to push past Agozie, who was blocking his way, but he couldn't. And then, in the twinkle of an eye, Agozie was lying on the floor. Ugonna had given her several fast blows that took her unawares, and she collapsed to the floor. It was the cry of her son that brought her back to consciousness hours later. Agozie managed to get up, but her head was banging very hard. The first thing she checked was between her legs, and when she didn't see any sign of blood, she was relieved. The pregnancy was still intact. She couldn't go out to her shop that day again, as she was in severe pain and her face was swollen. She had to massage it with warm water and look after her son alone, as Ugonna did not return home that night. Surely, he had gone to that woman's
Why
house.
do I look yellow?
The next day, Agozie prepared to go to her shop, and as she walked past Mama Chi's shop,
I look yellow. I look literally yellow.
but Mama Chi,
I don't think I like it.
called out to her, Agozie, Agozie, I didn't see you yesterday. What happened? Wait, so what happened to your face? It looked a bit swollen, and your eyes. Agozie, don't lie to me. Who did this to you? Agozie looked downwards and avoided Mama Chi's eyes, but Mama Chi pressed on. Don't tell me your husband did this to you, Agozie. No. Has it gotten to this? He now beats you. After stabbing you, he also beats you. Oh, Agozie, what is this? Why are you allowing this? I thought your generation knows better than ours. This is not life. Agozie couldn't hold back the tears anymore, and she let them pour. Ugonna is cheating on me. He claims not to have money, but he's spending hugely on that woman. Who knows how many more he has? What does he want? What is he looking for? Who did I offend that caused me with this? Even the pastor I would have reported him to. Ugonna has blocked the pastor's number. Who do I turn to now? Mama Chi felt pity for Agozie, but she knew her pity was useless if the victim refused to take a bold step. Agozie, I will keep on telling you this. Nobody cursed you. You were just blinded, and you are still blinded. Ugonna has always been like this. Prayer can't change him because he is not under any manipulation. This is who he is. You just need to believe him and stop living in denial. Only he can decide to change And from what I have seen here, he will never change because he enjoys playing the devil. Maybe he targeted you and married you because he knows you are easy to deceive and control. He wanted a family, but he wanted it with a woman who would swallow all his excesses. And everyone knows that the church is where you would easily get homely girls who would rather die in marriage than to walk away. Yes, that is why these demons target the church. They pretend to be born again. They don't mind going to that church consistently for years just to get their victim. And the moment they achieve their aim, they will change overnight, making you wonder if they are under manipulation or attack. But the truth is that they are the manipulators themselves. They are the attackers. They are the weapons fashioned against you. And if you don't run, they will finish you and spit you out dry. Agosi, take my advice and run. Mama Chi advised, but Agosi cleaned her tears off and stood up. Thank you for your concern, ma. I should start going to my shop now. With that, Agosi stood up and left. She was not ready to listen to another demonic advice of the voice. Marriage was for better or worse, so she would stay and fight. Moving on, Ugonna took it as a habit to always beat Agozie at the slightest provocation, and surprisingly, no matter how much he beat her up, the child in her womb was never affected. It was as if the baby already knew the tough life he was coming to meet, so he was already prepared for it. Months later, Agozie gave birth to another baby boy again, and he was named Ebuka. However, in spite of having two sons, Ugonna didn't see the need to be responsible one bit. He even became worse. He would boldly stay away from home for days, and when he returned, he would act as if all was okay. Agozie had become used to it. She had accepted her presence, but she was still hopeful that things would change one day, and so she would pray without ceasing, breaking and casting away whatever manipulation that was at work in her marriage. Her two boys were growing quickly, and they too started to see their father for who he was. Ugonna made no effort to even prepare in front of them. One evening, Agozie and the boys were eating dinner. They were 5 and 4 years old. The soup they were eating was their regular watery soup because Ugonna had given Agozie only 75 naira before going out that morning, and sales had been bad at the shop for her that day. So she had to make do with what she had, and the watery soup was their savior. They were halfway into the meal when Ugonna entered and asked Agozie to get him a plate. When she brought the plate, Ugonna poured out a large quantity of grilled chicken that was more than enough for 4 people. He drew it closer to himself and set out to devour it alone. As he ate, his children kept looking at him, hoping for him to call them to join him. But much to their disappointment, he ignored them all. It was when he was about to take the last piece of chicken that he first saw Uchenna couldn't bear it anymore and spoke up. "Daddy, please give us chicken." But Ugonna looked at him disgustedly and then turned to shout at Agozie. "What have you been teaching these children, Agozie? You have been teaching them to become beggars like you, right? You better kick them away from my presence now, before I would descend on all of you." Ugonna backed. Agozie fought back the tears that were welling up in her eyes and went to put the boys to sleep. But the next morning, after Ugonna left the house, Uchenna asked his mother, "Mommy, why is Daddy selfish? He's always shouting at us and he never gives us anything. Is he really our daddy?" Agozie was shocked at the question, but then she forced a smile. "Uche, You can't say that. Daddy is not selfish. He's just angry because of some people at work. Let us just pray for him that God will give him a better job and plenty of money too, so that he would not be angry again. But Ebuka, the second son and the toughest among the two, sneered. Mommy, if I catch Daddy, you think I don't used to see him beating you? Don't worry. When I grow up, I will beat him for you, and I will take you and run away where he will never see you again. He's wicked like that monster we used to watch. Take more than just her efforts to raise these boys well, especially Ebuka. Unfortunately for her, their father was not concerned. Who would she run to now? Brother Eugene? No, no. Brother Eugene is very angry at me. He warned me about this. Besides, he had disowned me. I just pray that he forgives me one day. Agozie thought to herself. One weekend, Ugonna returned home early and informed Agozie that he would be going to another state for a contract he got. Agozie was surprised. Really? That is good news. How long will you be gone for? She asked. And Ugonna told her that it would be for a very long time, maybe for a month or so, since the job was a huge one. Agozie was not comfortable about it, but she wished him well and begged him to be checking up on them from time to time. She then helped him pack up his bags, and very early the next day, he left the house. He gave Agozie 10,000 naira for upkeep, promising to send them more regularly. Agozie thanked him, and she and the boys waved him goodbye as he left, unknown to them that it was the last time they would ever see him. Agozie didn't find it hard to adjust since she had always lived like a single parent. She took charge of the home, sorting the bills and looking after the boys. Ugonna had called her the day after he left and he arrived safely. But since that day, she had not heard from him. Agozie was really worried, but unfortunately, she couldn't get to him as his number was unreachable. One full month passed, and yet Agozie had not seen Ugonna or heard from him. The boys too were asking about their father, but she kept on giving them one excuse or the other to cover up for him until one day, about 4 months later, Agozie received a call from an unknown number. Hello, is this Agozie, Ugonna's wife? You do not know me, but I know you. With this information to do whatever suits you. I just saw your husband with a woman who is obviously pregnant. I traced them, and when I asked from reliable sources, I was told that he is married to the said woman. They are in Umuahia currently, and from the look of things, your husband has no plan to return. Agozie closed her heart as she heard the news. Her deepest fear had finally come to reality. Ugonna had abandoned them. Oh no, this can't be. Why would Ugonna do that? What would she tell her children? Thankfully, the boys had gone to school, and she was just about to go to her shop when the call came in. She broke down and wept her heart out. Why me? What did I ever do to deserve this? I have done nothing but love and support Ugonna. I even lost my only family because of him. Yet, this is how he plays me. Ugonna, it will never be well with you. You have finally destroyed my life. Where do I start from? Agozie cried and cried, and she couldn't go out again that day. When her sons returned from school, they saw their mother on the floor, and even though
Okay guys, so I am done. I am all done, but I am going to change, and I feel like I look a little bit yellow. Let me know, but I feel like I look a little bit yellow, but here is my, let me put on the light, hold on.
Understood what their mother had said, and they couldn't control the anger that was building up in them. They swore to make their father pay for everything he had done when they grew up. But for now, they would console their mother.
So I look a little bit yellow, right? But here is the final look. I love it. I don't know what I was doing, but yeah.
And that seed was out to frustrate.
I love it so much. Hold on.
That was the exact replica of Ugonna, and he made sure that both his mother and elder brother had no peace in that house. He would go into the kitchen.
I look too yellow, but I think I should be fine.
Considering if any other person had eaten, and even if Agozie tries to correct him, he would walk out on her. He wasn't.
Okay, guys. Bye.
He was uncontrollable. Agozie was tired.